Alrighty. Hi, guys. Hope everyone's well. Happy Valentine's Day. I keep forgetting today's Valentine's Day. I don't know when everyone's going to see this, but every day should be Valentine's Day, right? So happy Valentine's Day. And Olivia, happy Valentine's Day. Thank you for
Why,
being.
thank you. Same to
I am
you.
beyond excited about this. For
Thank you.
everyone that's listening, two people that I've had on the podcast in the past, Boo Boo and Betty, both amazing people, and they both have had Olivia on their podcast. And I just feel like this interview is going to be a blast.
Mhm.
I love your energy. I've listened to your story several times now, and
Oh, well, thanks.
just a warning to everyone, I'm probably gonna ugly cry. I tend to do that on here, but your story it hits home for me. And I mean, I know exactly what it's like to uh talk to doctors and have them look at you like you have 20 heads, and you knowing that what you're experiencing is so real and valid, and for others to just not understand, and sometimes even just steer you in the wrong direction. Like I know what that's like, and there's just aspects of your story that really, again, just hit home and really resonate. And I would love for you to share your life story, because your death and rebirth, it's all of it, you know. Your story is very much in the details, and take your time, truly. I know Ian's classified yours as a near-death like experience, and I think that is something that a lot of people are going through and maybe not even necessarily know it, because it can be so confusing. And it can be it's little details that add up through your life that, you know what I mean, end up making this big moment in whole. So yeah, I just please start wherever it feels, you know, the most comfortable for you. Take your time with this, but share away.
So, my name is Olivia. I'm 48. I'm a registered nurse in Ohio. I have my mom is a Pentecostal minister, or she was. We were raised in a Pentecostal church. I went. It really wasn't my calling, my thing. I went with her. My dad was a tradesman and they divorced when I was young. So I was between two houses. I have a couple siblings. And growing up, I was always very intelligent. They wanted me to skip grades and things like that. Everyone always thought I would be a doctor. And I met my previous husband when I was 16. We met in 93 and we immediately fell in love. We were all Twitter-pated and in love from the beginning. And yeah, I ended up getting pregnant with my son when I was 17. I was a senior in high school. So I had to figure out what to do. And I went to school to be a nurse. I became an RN when I was 19 and had another son a couple years later. We actually got married on Valentine's Day uh, in 99.
Wow.
We had our life together. We got together real young. There were a lot of ups and downs. We divorced at one point, got back together. We had a lot of things. We were, soulmates for sure, but we had our moments. We
That's
had
how
split up
soulmates work.
oh yeah. And we had split up about a year before he passed, but we still stayed the best of friends. Our story wasn't over.
Yeah.
When we were young, in our 20s, he started saying that he wouldn't live till 50. He always said it. He said it, and it wasn't a big deal. It was just it was very matter of fact about it. Now I look at it more, it was probably precognitive that he just knew. He always said he wouldn't live till 50. Okay, so I worked all these years as a nurse. I was an emergency room nurse. I was an ICU nurse. I worked at a prison. I was a legal nurse consultant. I had a great career. I really didn't have any spiritual beliefs. I kind of became an agnostic, maybe an atheist at some point. I think it goes to, when you're raised with very strong beliefs, you either buy into them fully and they become yours, or you go in the opposite direction.
Mm.
And I went in the opposite direction. Um, Being a nurse, I always saw a lot of things that I knew there was some higher power, but I just didn't subscribe to any particular belief. In 2015, my dad died very suddenly in May. He just didn't wake up one day. And within 3 months, I started having breathing problems and was shortly thereafter diagnosed at Cleveland Clinic and then later Mayo Clinic with pulmonary hypertension, a rare form of heart failure called high output heart failure. I had a genetic disorder, they said, called Ehlers-Danlos, which is a connective tissue disorder, causes hypermobility and also some vascular problems. And I ended up in kidney failure. And so they deemed me as terminal and totally and permanently disabled. So that was in 2015, 2016. I had ended up on probably it was about 90 pills a day, probably like 20 some different prescriptions.
Mm.
I had because of years of as a nurse, I ended up with a couple herniated discs. I had been on prescription opiates for 22 years. I started them in 2002, I think, and I had been on them for a long time. Didn't think I was addicted to them, but I was horribly addicted to them. Um, yeah, I mean, and I was just at the place where I was just existing. I had always been a social drinker, but then come COVID, and then especially after my previous husband passed away, I was drinking every single day,
Mm.
every day. Um, in 2022, Daniel was my previous husband. He died very suddenly. We got a call that he was gone, and thank you. And I had to, tell my boys. So I told them, and I knew at that point I wanted to live. I had previously resigned myself to the fact that this was it. As a nurse, as a science-based thinker, they tell you you have terminal heart failure. They tell, I have pulmonary hypertension. I would go through episodes where I would put on up to 38 pounds overnight in fluid.
Wow.
And, they didn't believe me until I was admitted to the hospital and they watched it happen. I was on massive doses of diuretics. I was on 5 different diuretics, 5 pills 3 times a day of one, 2 pills 3 times a day of another, and just so on and so on. So I was on and those pills are what pushed me into kidney failure.
Wow.
So I was falling apart at the seams, and I didn't see a way out. I really didn't. I knew I wanted things to be better, but I just didn't see any hope for that. My mom was always a very praying person. She always prayed for miracles, and my mom actually is, an amazing uh, prayer warrior, an amazing person who truly makes things happen. I
Mm.
mean, I have a story when I was little where money was real short, and she prayed and said, God, I just need toilet paper and milk. And within an hour, her best friend stopped by and said, something told me you need toilet paper and milk, and brought up this bag of toilet paper and milk. So,
Wow.
and that's just one thing. My mom's always been that way.
Mm.
Um, but again, I always thought that was my mom's thing. So anyway, I truly didn't see a hope for getting better. I didn't see a chance. But I knew I wanted to live for my boys. They would kept telling me, Mom, we want you here. You need to stick around. You can't, nothing can happen to you. We need you. And
Mm.
so then we go to last year, January 6th of 2024. Me and my mom were on our way to go see my brother. I live in Northeast Ohio, and so we were on our way towards Akron area. And um, I was driving my mom's car. My son had just totaled my car the week before, so I was driving my mom's car. So I was really paying attention. I had my phone in my hand, and I was watching the GPS. And what's funny is I now drive this route all the time to work. And so I'm always on this route. So it's pretty funny. But anyway, so we got off the main highway. We got off on this county road. And I'm looking at my GPS, and it said I needed to turn on Howell Road in zero point 0.6 miles. I needed to make a left. It's a long straight road. There's no stop signs, no lights or anything in that area. Behind me, there was traffic. In front of me, there was, I think, a white truck. But so there was traffic. My mom was in the passenger seat and she was just playing with her phone. All of a sudden, my GPS went gray. And I'd never seen my screen go gray before. I have an iPhone. And so usually, it might recalculate, but it never went gray. So I just kind of looked at it. The radio went off. And my mom looked up and she said, "What's going on? Where are we?" And I looked around and I looked up from my phone. And this was in just a split second, just long enough for me. I looked out at my phone. It ticked and I looked up. All of a sudden, there's a stop sign in front of me. I slammed on my brakes. There's no traffic behind me, no traffic in front of me. There's a car on the other side at the stop sign. Mom goes, "Did you make a wrong turn? Where are we? Where'd we go?" I said, "Mom, I didn't turn. I didn't turn the wheel. I don't know where we are." I said, "You know what? Hold on. Let's see what's going on here." So my GPS recalculated and it said, "Make a left on Cherry." So I said, "All right, let's just figure out where we're going." Now, when we left our house, our ETA was 1:16 p.m. to get to my brother's. So I left, turned, followed the GPS, got back on track to my brother's house. I'm not from that area at the time. I wasn't, never went there. So I didn't know anything about the area. When we get to my brother's house, I said, "Hey," I said, "we ended up on Cherry and 261." And he said, "No, you didn't." And I said, "Well, why didn't we?" And he said, "Well, that's up in Kent. That's in the other direction from where you were coming from." He said, "Did you make a wrong turn?" I said, "No, I didn't." I'm like that. I
Wow.
was there. And my brother just kind of shrugged it off. He goes, "Eh." And my mom just shrugged it off as well. Just, meh. And I'm just completely mind blown at this point. My brother said, he's like, "Well, how much longer did it take you to get here?" And I said, "Well, it didn't take us any longer." And he said, "Well, that's at least, 15 minutes in the other direction to get there and then get back. Like you'd have been at least 15, 20 minutes later." And I'm like, "No, we pulled up at 1:16 to my brother's house, the same ETA."
Wow.
So my mom, in the meanwhile, she had brushed it all off and, didn't thought nothing of it. Like literally,
Mhm.
I was so shook that she like was giving no neurons were firing about this. Like there was no concern. Like, how are you not concerned about this?
FaceTime. It
Yes,
doesn't
I'm like,
exist.
I said, you were in the car
This
with
doesn't
me.
feel
Like,
weird.
I'm like, you were in the car with me. Like, this happened, right? She was like, "Well, yeah, something happened, but I don't know what it was." And, all right. So now, mind you, I was raised, like I said, Pentecostal, psychics are the devil's work,
Mm.
mediums are a straight
Yeah.
ticket to hell. So the first thing I did was I contacted a psychic medium that I
Mm.
was friends with on Facebook. Didn't tell her anything. I just said, "Hey," I said, I need to see if you can reach Daniel. I need to see if you can reach him." And so she did a reading and she recorded it and sent it to me. She lives in another state. So she recorded it and sent it to me. And she said, "I had went through something really significant recently, that Daniel was there with me. He had a hand in it, that my whole life was going to change. Nothing about my life would be the same." And she
Wow.
gave me three things to watch out for. Like she said, "It hasn't happened yet, but these three things, watch out for these. And in the next few weeks, know that when those happen, he's there." And all three things happened within the next couple of days or a week or so.
Can I ask what those are?
I have it written down. I can't, but the first two I remember well. The first one, she said there would be a mention of a teddy bear, and the other one was this. Now, I know those sound very general, but I was at my best friend's house. Now, my best friend was me and my best friend have been together since I was 14. I knew her before I knew Daniel. Like, I met Daniel when I was 16. I knew her before. So we were like the three musketeers. Us
Wow.
three did everything together. Like we raised our kids together. Like, her girls were so close with us. They were at our house all the time. Um, she was the one, she was on this spiritual journey years before me. Like, actually, I stopped talking to her because I thought she lost her mind. Like,
Mm.
I thought she was absolutely nuts. And like, we were only talking like twice a year. I mean, it was
Yeah.
bad. Like, we weren't
Yeah.
even talking. Like, and it wasn't that we didn't love each other. We just had no common
Yes.
thread at
I
that
hear
point,
you.
and like, it was just, I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, sister. Like, this is all you." But her and Daniel always talked about this stuff. Them two would stay up like hours and hours all night long,
Wow.
like talking and talking about different things like dissecting the Bible and different religious texts and talking about things and spirituality and heaven and hell and the nature of reality. And I would go to bed. Like I wanted no parts of it. I wanted no parts of it. How I wish I could go back now, and
Mm,
like, participate in those conversations, but it all happens as it's supposed to, I
that's
guess.
right.
But anyway, so I had called my best friend after this happened in the car, and she first thing she said was, "It was D." It was D. It was Daniel. It was D. He was, he's talking to you. He's trying to show you something. So I went over to her house and we were talking just about everything that had been transpiring. Because mind you, like things were weird at this point. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on. I have like it just this multitude of feelings and things, and I had no idea what was going on. So I'm over there talking to them, and her daughter Nina, we were talking about Daniel, and she goes, "Uncle D, he was my teddy bear. He was my teddy bear. He was my teddy bear." And I went, "Oh." I started,
Oh my
I said,
gosh.
"Why did you say teddy bear?" And she goes, because I said, like, that's not something she's ever said about Daniel in, the whole time she's been alive. And I said, "Why did you say teddy bear?" She said, "I don't know. I was going to say he was a big bear, but it just came out teddy bear." And I said,
Wow.
"Okay." And so that was one. And it's like, but like, as soon as she said it, like my whole body, I got chills from my head to my toe. Like, and I just, like, in that moment, I was like, okay, that's weird. Because again, I know it's a generic word, but in
Mm.
the in that context, it really was significant. And then a night or two later, my youngest son Julian comes over. He is, 6'3", 300 pounds, big dude. He's married, he has a little girl. At the time, well, I didn't have my granddaughter at that point. But anyway, so he was leaving the house. He's never in his life done this. Never. He leaves out the door, and I'm sitting in the chair, and he walks out the door and he comes back in. He goes, "Mom, I love you." And I
Wow.
and so I said, "Why'd you do that?" He goes, "I don't know." And I said, "All right, there was two." And the third one, it was something with I can't it was something with a ding or either which way, but those two were the two significant ones that I remembered.
Unbelievable.
So
Wow.
like when those two things happen, I'm like, okay. I'm like, I was all in at that point. I just said, I was like, okay, I've got to look into this further. I'm like, there's something going on. And so within that few week period, that's when I would get up real early in the morning and I started meditating. I had never meditated. I never knew anything about it. My brain wouldn't stop. Like that wasn't something
Yeah.
I did. Um, I started meditating and I started getting downloads. And that was the only way I could describe them was
Mm.
downloads. It was very clear. It was right here. I could hear it right here on this side of my head. And it was telling me that what I needed to do in order to be better, that I needed to change my perspective, that I was viewing myself as a sick person, so I was going to be a sick person. That the medications that were all on my nightstand, I didn't need to stop taking them, but I needed to put them away and stop making them my focus.
Mm.
The whole time I was sick, I had always titrated my medications based on weight and my lab work. I've been a nurse for, almost 30 years at this point. My doctors gave me that liberty. I had standing labs, so I would go and get my labs drawn. I would weigh myself. So I started cutting back on my medication. And the whole time I'm doing it, my weight's steady dropping, steady drop. It's staying low. I'm not short of breath. I'm not having problems. I'm getting my blood drawn. My kidney function's improving. Everything's getting better. I did not want to drink at all. I hadn't had a drink since the day before that happened on the 5th. I no longer wanted the Vicodin, didn't even take it. I had been using medicinal marijuana every day for a year, just completely stopped. All of that was gone. I, the part of the downloads were that your body's a mere reflection of your mind and your soul. And when your mind and your soul are out of alignment, your body by default has to be.
Mm.
So, and it was about energy and stored energies and how your body holds on to it. And the body keeps that score, and that
Yes.
that those illnesses they manifest because of all of the trauma, a lifetime of trauma, a lifetime of pain. I mean, I loved Daniel dearly, but we went through some stuff. Like we had, constant ups and downs and, issues. There was just a lot of things, and everybody does. Everybody has their own story. Everybody has their own trauma. I'm not special in this, and anyway, so, I started getting these downloads. I'm writing journals and these books. I'm just like writing. They're all in my my nightstand back there. Just about the nature of reality and what's real and what isn't. So now all of this is going on, and it's a lot. Part of it was something about Indra's web. Now, I've never heard of Indra's web. Most people haven't. So I go to the Google machine and I typed in Indra's web, and it is a Buddhist philosophy of the connectivity that goes around the earth. Like,
Mm.
okay, Indra's web or Indra's net and internet, like the internet connects the world and Indra's net connects the world. And so, yeah. So, but it's a Buddhist philosophy. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'm supposed to be Buddhist. maybe am I Buddhist? I don't know. What am I? I have no idea what's going on here. So I was like, I even have in my notebooks written down where I wrote down like the Buddhist temple in Cleveland, like that's the nearest one. So I wrote it down. So about like a week or two, a couple weeks later, I ended up going to Florida to see my family. And I get to the airport, and who's sitting at the terminal but two Buddhist monks.
Wow.
So I ended up talking to these two Buddhist monks about all of this. And they were very matter of fact about it. They're like, "Oh yeah, you're hearing from the divine." Like
Yeah.
yeah, you're hearing from the
That's their
divine, right?
life.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just
clearly
another
this
Tuesday for them.
like clearly this happens. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like this is madness. Like I understand this. So yeah, check that one off my list. So the Buddhist monks told me I was hearing from the divine, and so I get on the plane and go to Florida. Um, and so I was down there about a week, and I came home, but when I came home, I was telling my son and my mom and my family that I was better, that I didn't need my medicine anymore. I was taking where I had been taking upwards of 90 pills a day, I was probably taking like four. I was taking a few of them. I was taking like one diuretic and some potassium, but I had stopped all of it. I started taking like a bunch of vitamins. I became a vegetarian. I couldn't, I had been sick for 10 years, throwing up. Now, mind you, I had a stomach full of pills and alcohol. So I'm sure that had something to do with it. Couldn't possibly have had something to do with it. But I stopped eating meat, and within a couple days, I like within a day, I think all my stomach problems had been gone. So like
Wow.
vegetarianism just worked for me. Like that was all part of the downloads, was that if
Did you cut out
like
anything else in terms of food, or was it just meat?
just meat.
Wow.
Well, all processed too. Nothing
Okay.
processed. Like I don't eat
Yeah.
anything. I
Yeah.
still don't. Like I call myself like a whole food vegetarian. Like
Yeah.
I make everything, I mean, it's not very fun, but
Yeah. Yes.
it's not very fun. I do have the occasional Impossible Burger, which is like as ultra processed as it comes.
Yeah.
But I pick my battles.
That's right.
But yeah, I try not to. I don't eat it every day, but it is my treat. But no, I mean, for me, it was an energetic thing that for something to die, or okay, even okay, if you had ethically raised animals that were raised ethically and they
Yes.
weren't stressed and everything, but everything, like even if you buy eggs and they are, in this farm, in this
Yes.
box, the
Yes.
chicken's stressed out, that energy is stored in there, and then you're eating
Yes.
that. So it's just being mindful of those things.
Yeah.
I tell people that, you could be an omnivore, that's fine, but just know what you're eating, know where it's
Yeah.
coming
Yeah. Exactly. Know where
from.
it's coming from. Absolutely.
And know what's being done to it. Know
Yes.
what's being, most of all, what's being done to it.
Yes.
So, I went through a bunch of changes, and like everything about me had changed. I was talking about Daniel, I was seeing mediums, I was seeing psychics, I was talking about spirituality and God and reality. I'm talking about getting these downloads. I'm not taking my heart medicine. And my family thought I lost my crap. They really did. And in retrospect, I fully understand it.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. You know, I thought my mom would understand more than she did. My mom has been channeling since I was a little kid. She's been speaking in tongues since the 80s. So I really thought my mom would get it a lot more than she did. But in the end, I think that there's a lot that goes with that. Anyway, um, so, oh, I left out the part about the leg. Okay. So I have to rewind a little bit. I had been caring for an elderly lady for a couple years. I was taking care of her in her home. And in December, before all this happened, she had broken her leg. She had the leg broke and then she fell. And she had a broken tibia right at the top. Um, so that happened in December. All of this happened starting January 6th, and then all of my downloads and everything started shortly thereafter. Okay. So I'm just this energetic fireball of things happening, downloads occurring, information coming in. I'm questioning everything I know and am. But I'm still taking care of her. Everything's going okay as far as that goes. But she was having a lot of pain. So one day she grabs me by my shoulders and looks me in the eyes and says, please make it stop, make the pain go away. And it just felt weird. Like it felt like she grabbed me from the inside. And so I just moved back. I said, I've got to move. I said, no, I've got to go. Like, I've got to go. Let me step away. Let me walk away. And I walked in the kitchen and I just said, that was really weird. Like it felt weird, but
Wow.
I shrugged it off. That night, I go home, I go to bed, I wake up in the morning, and my leg is killing me. I mean, it hurt so bad. I never fell. I didn't trip. I didn't get injured. I don't have osteoporosis. I don't have anything like that. But I mean, my leg hurt so bad. I didn't know what was wrong. I go in to take care of her, and her pain is completely gone. She'd
Wow.
been taking pain. She'd been taking like 6 pills a day. She didn't need any pain medicine. Her pain was completely gone. Meanwhile, my leg is on fire. So, the only thing that was making it better was like a cycling movement. Like I would go on the elliptical or the recumbent bike, and that movement was helping it. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I'm like, do I have a tumor? Is it, is something wrong? I had no idea what was wrong. And at this point, nothing's making sense in my life. The pain got so intense that I ended up going to the emergency room. Went to the ER, and I told them, I said, my leg really hurts. It's a mind-blowing pain. I don't, I know that an X-ray isn't going to show anything because I didn't have any trauma. I know it, I didn't have trauma. I know I need a scan for this. I know the ER isn't the place for this, but I need some help. Something's really wrong. And while I was there, they got the X-ray. X-ray was fine, and they were going to discharge me home. My son comes to the hospital and told them that I was talking about his dead dad, that I was hearing voices, and I wasn't taking my heart medicine, and I was a danger to myself because I wasn't taking care of myself. Now, mind you, when I was hooked on Vicodin and marijuana and drinking every day with heart failure, I wasn't a danger to myself.
Right. Right.
But I
Wow.
stopped all that and I started meditating and
Mm,
stopped there, and even though I wasn't taking my heart medications, I was fine. Like obviously I didn't need them.
mm.
But they pink slipped me, which in Ohio is where we live, but it's a mandatory psych hold. Now, don't get mandated to a psych ward on a Friday of a holiday weekend because none of those days count. It's a 72-hour hold,
Wow.
but it only counts on business days. So I went in Friday night, that didn't count. Saturday didn't count. Sunday didn't count. Monday was President's Day, didn't count. Tuesday was considered my first day.
Wow.
So, while I was in there, I kind of, I resigned to the fact eventually. It was very, very chaotic. I'm channeling. I'm hearing all these things still. But I'm telling the doctors, I said, listen, I'm, I think I'm an intuitive empath. I think there's something going on. I'm not, are these voices telling you to do anything? I said, no, it's not voices. It's my voice. It's a thought,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not thoughts I normally have. I said, but they're
Mm-hmm.
thoughts telling me to do good things, not bad things. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't take kindly to that. It wasn't something that they understood nor wanted to understand. Um, I was still refusing all my heart medicine, and they were monitoring my labs. They had the cardiologist come see me, the nephrologist, the internal medicine doctor, and they all said I was doing fine. And even though I was refusing all the medications, I was doing fine. So my theory was like, hey, I'm proving you guys, I'm proving myself right here. I was still having the horrible leg pain. I couldn't walk. Like they wouldn't give me a cane, a walker, a wheelchair, a crutch, nothing.
Wow.
So I finally talked the doctor into getting an MRI. So he got an MRI for me, and the MRI result came back, and I had a broken tibia
Hold
right
on.
underneath.
Can I stop you right there? So I missed this part earlier. So when you were at the hospital, they didn't even finish looking at taking care of the leg. They didn't finish looking at the leg. They sent you to the psych ward.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, and my thing was if you guys are so concerned that I'm not taking my heart medication, you should put me on a medical floor to monitor me and maybe have a psychiatrist come see me. But if you're so concerned for my medical well-being, why did you put me in a psych ward where no one was looking at my medical well-being?
Wow.
Yeah, it was dystopian. It was wild. I mean, I eventually had the doctor told my mom if I didn't start taking antipsychotic medications that they were going to have me court mandated to take medications. So I had to agree to start taking them. So I took them. I started on my sixth day there. I started, and I ended up being discharged on my ninth day.
Wow.
It
Okay.
was a year ago. It was a year ago this week. Destiny.
Unbelievable. So I cut you off when you were talking about your tibia. So going back to that when you were in the ward, what did they find from that?
So when they come to me and they said, so your MRI came back and you have a broken tibia. This is the weird part. Before I went in the MRI, it hurt so bad. I mean, the pain was just astounding. I mean, it hurt so bad. I really hadn't been able to sleep that whole time. And that whole time, it's not a restful place.
Mm.
It's a very chaotic environment. I went and got this MRI. It was about 45 minutes. I fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up, my leg didn't hurt anymore. So I went back to the unit. They said my leg was broken. They gave me a wheelchair at this point. I said,
Wow.
it doesn't hurt anymore. I don't need the wheelchair. I'm fine. But I wasn't allowed to refuse the wheelchair. I had to use the wheelchair, even though I didn't want it or need it anymore. But they hadn't given it to me.
Wow.
And again, they're like, well, why doesn't it hurt anymore? I said, listen, I can't understand anything that's going on here. I don't have the answers. I'm just telling you it doesn't hurt anymore. When I went to my orthopedic
So
doctor,
now they're like, this woman's definitely crazy.
yeah, oh yeah, now I'm
Wow.
absolutely nuts. I'm certifiable at this point. I mean,
Oh,
so so I had to start taking the medication. I took it for a couple days and they finally discharged me. So they discharged me. I got discharged the day my granddaughter was born. So
wow.
yeah, she was
What
born
what
then.
does discharge look like for them? Is it just like now that they see you were taking the medication, you can go? Like, do they run through questions with you? Like, how does that work? They just
No, there's no one-on-one someone sit with you and talk to you at all. I,
wow.
I had I had such a even being a nurse, and I was a psych nurse at a prison for years, but I had no idea how an inpatient psychiatric unit worked. I
Wow.
mean, and to be very honest, everybody I encountered in there all had varying degrees of spiritual issues or spiritual things they were experiencing. I mean,
Wow.
it was just all varying degrees. Uh, it was. it was definitely an eye-opening experience for sure. And I
Unbelievable.
could, but I could very easily see where they could easily have convinced me I was
Yeah,
absolutely bonkers, that I was,
absolutely.
and had I not had the confidence,
Mm,
okay, I was raised by a wonderful family who instilled great confidence in me. I mean, if anything, I err on the side of overconfident. Like, I believe in myself. I always have. Like,
good for
if
you.
I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And that, I was raised that way. And so I held on to that conviction of, I know I'm not nuts here, guys.
Mm,
Like, but there was no convincing them. I mean, at that point, I knew everyone was looking at me like, okay,
wow.
and things were and I know it looked chaotic. I know it was very confusing. It was a very confusing time. I was making it through it. I would have made it through the other end just fine either way. I mean, I know that ultimately it was something I needed to experience,
Mm,
who
yeah.
knows, something karmic, who knows, but ultimately it was something I needed to experience, something I had to
Wow.
go through. I definitely, I came out for a time. I thought I wanted to go and continue my degree as a psych nurse practitioner, perhaps, but then it all comes back to their main role is to prescribe medications.
Mm,
And I no longer subscribe
mm,
to that
mm.
theory. So yeah, I don't know. I know that after I got out of the hospital, things died down a lot. Like everything just kind of, like just simmered down
Gonna
and
cool down now.
yeah, right. All the downloads stopped, all
Mm,
of the chaos, and then became a year of like just rebuilding, figuring out what this new life is for me. I watched every single episode of Next Level Soul. When
yes.
I say, I mean every single
Yes.
episode. I
Yeah.
mean, Alex was like my guiding guru through the entire
Truly.
thing. He has no idea who I am, but he was like my
Absolutely.
guiding light at the end of the tunnel. And my best friend is the one that told me to start watching him, my
I
best friend
hear you. I
Jamie.
can't tell you how many people I text his episodes to. Like
Oh,
they've got to be like, Stop, Allie. Like, stop."
oh, I mean, it was intense. And like, and then I recently, in the last few months, I read a book by Elizabeth April. It was
Yeah.
you're not dying, you're waking up, or something
Yes.
along those
Yes.
lines.
Yes.
And I've fully hit every check mark. Like, from okay, you're waking up and things are going wild and you don't know who you are, what reality is, to now you're a conspiracy theorist and now you don't believe in government or anything else and it's all just a show and we're actors in it. Like I hit every single tick on the way down. Like every
I
single
hear
one. Like
you.
I'm currently in the conspiracy theory phase. So
Which is an interesting phase, to
oh,
say
it's a
the
wild time.
least.
Oh, it's a total wild ride. Yeah,
It
it's
really
definitely
is.
wild. I'm enjoying the journey at this point.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I mean, I started what I did do when I got out of this hospital though was I started with an amazing therapist. I mean,
Mm,
I
mm,
called around and I called a place that the name sounded right. And I called and I said, "Do you have someone who understands spirituality? Not religion, spirituality." And she said, "I have just the girl for you."
mm,
And I met her. I went in there. I was bawling. And I just
mm.
said, "I've lost my mind. I've gone crazy. My family thinks that I need to be committed. I don't know what's." And I'm just like telling her like this
Wow.
word vomit of all of these things. And she was like, "You are okay. Like,
Mm,
you are okay. You're going through an awakening. You are going to be fine. Let's get you through this." I'm like,
wow.
"Really?" Like, I'm not crazy? No, you're not crazy. I'm like, "Oh, that's great. Thank you." And
Oh,
then and so I had
mm,
stayed on like a mood stabilizer for like a month. I got weaned off of everything. I didn't want to just like, because again, I was still wondering like, do I need this? Like, am
yeah.
I something wrong up here? So, but no, I didn't. Like, I ended up off everything within about a month or two. I still take a half of a diuretic in the morning and at night, which that really bums me out. I wish I didn't have to, but
You'll
it
get
is what it
there.
is. But
Yeah.
considering I've, from whence I came,
Yes.
better. I did replace all of my prescriptions with supplements. So now I take like a handful of vitamins and everything, but I never get sick. I never get sick. I've never had more energy. I never felt
Wow.
better. It's
Wow.
really nice having a clear mind
Yeah.
and knowing what I'm doing. And the
Mm.
thing is that, life doesn't bother me anymore.
Mm.
I have a whole new perspective, just that, these are our journeys that we're on,
Yes.
ultimately this is all just an illusion. I mean, it's
Yes.
it's real, but it's a co-collective hallucination that we've all agreed to participate in. I
Yes.
mean,
Great way to put it. I love
yeah,
that.
it truly is. I mean, this is a
It
hallucination we've
is.
all agreed
Yes.
to participate in. And really, I mean, science is catching up with spirituality
Yes.
and ultimately, observer theory and all that. Like, yeah, it's
We're
all
getting
it's all
there.
wild.
Yeah.
It's
It's
all wild. It's just
wild.
so yeah, no, I'm just having fun. I'm just having fun. I had been retired for 9 years and I love being a nurse and I couldn't
Mhm.
work and I got my license renewed. I like it was never gone. I just
Right.
didn't renew it. So
Right.
I got it reinstated in April. No, no, March of last year. So all this happened in January. Then February I was in the hospital. March I got my license back. April I went back to work.
Wow.
And I've been back at work since. And I love
Wow.
my job. I love what I do. But I did decide I wanted to go to school to be a naturopath. So
Good.
I'm doing that just as like, I mean, that's really personal development more than
Mm.
anything. I mean,
Mm.
expensive personal development.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just that I know that ultimately I would like to help people like me because all of our physical maladies and ailments ultimately are a reflection of what's going on
Yes.
here,
Yes.
you know and I fully support people who don't agree with me, I mean, who don't who I because I was them. I did think all just the science.
Yeah.
So if you ask me what antibiotic you need or what blood pressure medicine to take or what anticoagulant you need, I'm your guy. I'll answer you. I just kind of shift gears and go into that side. But if you ask me what I really think, I'll answer, I'll tell you and
Yeah.
I'll give you guidance with that too. I do think there are absolutely places for medications as a
Mm.
bridge, but ultimately you got to fix your crap.
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
and then and then you'll get better.
Yeah.
Or maybe you won't because maybe it's part of your journey. I
Right.
can't answer
Right.
that for you. It's
Yes.
every
Yes.
I can't answer
Yes.
that for you either. When I first was on the first podcast, people were emailing me and asking me like I'm some guru that has these answers to questions. And I'm like, dude, listen, I got no idea what I'm doing. Like none whatsoever. I am flying by the seat of my pants. Like I am holding on like Harry Potter on the on the broom, just on the nimbus, just flying through the sky, hoping it all works out. Like I'm just trying to figure this out. I got no
Mm.
answers for anyone else. But ultimately the answers are always within you. I mean, I know it's
Absolutely.
cliche and I know it sounds like a bumper sticker,
I hear you.
but it really is the truth.
It's
I
so
mean, it
true.
I tell everybody, anybody that will listen or anybody that asks me, I tell them, you've got to get through your muck. You've got to dig
Mm.
through all of your trauma. You've got to dig through everything you've gone through, all the heartache, all the pain, and you come out on the other side and you'll start seeing the light. You'll
Yeah.
you'll start seeing things get better,
A
you know.
100%.
I mean, ultimately, like I know, I'm in mediumship development now. Like I decided that was the route I wanted to go. So I got a scholarship for a good program and off I go.
That's
So
awesome. Good for you.
if you'd have talked to me last New Year's, we'd
Yeah.
have never had this
Totally different. Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. I hear you.
Totally different conversation,
Yeah.
like two totally different people. I mean, I am not, when I tell you, I am not the same person I was. And that's why I think that's why Ian's called it a near death like experience
Yeah.
because I'm just not the same guy. Like, I'm
Absolutely.
not. I was so cynical. and
Yeah.
jaded and
Mhm.
just, and rightfully so. I mean, I had been beaten down by life. I mean,
Yeah.
I was kicked a bunch of times. I had a job that was so hard. I mean, millions of us do it, but it's hard. It's
Mm.
hard
It
to
sure
be an
is.
emergency room nurse, to
Yeah.
do those things, to deal with traumas, deal with ICU,
Mm.
all that. It was hard and it took its toll, so tell me, I'm not special. We all can do this. We're all capable of doing this. Yes, I had something really strange happen and really supernatural, but I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
We could all do this. I mean, I feel like, the movie It's a Wonderful Life,
Yes.
how, like, he got to go and see the past and everything like that.
Yes.
Yes. I feel like that's what happened to me. And like I even wrote that in the beginning because I feel
Mhm.
like someone pulled me out from the top of my head and set me down over here, and I had to look back at myself.
Yes.
And I had to take a good hard look at, like, what a mess I had made. Like,
Mhm.
what are you doing? Like, what is this? Why are you like this? Stop this. Stop it now. So, yeah. I mean, do I wish I would have done this 15 years ago? Sure, but it wasn't for me then.
Absolutely. Again, it
Yeah.
takes what it takes and it happens the way it needs to happen, whatever that looks like for each
Yeah.
of us. Because it is a choice. At the end of the day, it is a choice. Just like you said, you look around, what am I doing? And then you make a choice to change what you're doing so that you see new results. But
Hmm.
it does, there's so much that goes into that. There's trauma. That's why doing inner work is so important. But there's so much outside of that as well. I mean, we live in a very 3D world that has created this environment where I mean, we have a gazillion false beliefs. We have programming that's going on various different levels. I mean, there's so much that
Hmm.
you're working through and sifting through, and it's trauma, it's external things, it's all of it. So yeah. I just hear you through and through and through. It takes what it takes, but it is a decision at the end of the day. It really is. For me though, I am stubborn as hell, and you know, I damn near needed to die before I really decided to wake up.
Yeah. Well,
Right,
and
really saw I had a choice.
ultimately,
Yeah.
ultimately, this is but a blink of the eye,
Yeah.
I mean, this is just a blink, a sheer blink. And in another timeline, in another version,
Yeah.
I'm somewhere else living another life with my people and different bodies and I
Yes.
mean, so occasionally when I start getting, concerned about too much and things like that, I just remember that. And
Yes.
we're all on our journey floating through this universe on this rock
Yes.
hurling through space that really isn't there. And I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hear you through and through. I love that. And I was just going to ask, is there any like advice or anything that you would just want to wrap us up with, or if you want to piggyback off
Yeah.
that or whatever, yeah, take
Yeah.
us in any direction.
Yeah. No, the best advice I can give is we're all going through this journey. We're all just figuring it out. Every single day. I always say that there are no wrong decisions because
Mm,
ultimately it's always the decision you were supposed to make.
that's right.
I mean, ultimately, so, if you can just, like, every single day, I try to be happy. I try to make others happy. My patients always say, "You're always so happy." I'm really glad to be here. I'm
Mm,
really glad to be well enough to take care of people. I'm really glad to wake up every day. I'm really glad about those things because Daniel doesn't get to do that anymore, you
mm,
know? So we'll do it again in another lifetime.
that's right. Absolutely. I do believe in that 100%. I really do. I say that to people all the time. We'll do
Gosh,
it
see,
this
it makes me.
lifetime.
Yeah,
Ugh. You are just lovely, Olivia. Thank you so much for doing this. Seriously,
thank
I
you.
cannot thank you enough.
Thank
This is
you.
just, we need more of this. You are just so real and you've had these crazy experiences, and I know, I've talked to enough people, I've experienced it myself. There are some just weird things happening, and I love people like you that are brave enough to get out there and talk about it, because it is the people that are going on podcasts. It is the next level souls that are, when you are in a desperate moment, that's what's going to get you through. It really is. When
Yeah.
you are questioning, am I crazy? And then you can hop on, the internet
Yeah.
and
It
find
was,
someone that's
I
going through
don't
the
know what I
same
would have
exact thing.
done
Yeah.
without it.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would have done. I don't
Yeah.
know what I would have done. So I'm very grateful. And that's the only, and that's why so when they asked me to tell my story, that's why I shared it, just
Yeah.
because, someone else is having things like that happen to them, and maybe they can hear and see me and say, hey, you know what? She
Yes.
looks pretty normal.
Yes.
I swear I'm a pretty normal person. I just had something really strange happen. But if you ask me before was a lot more strange than what happened for a month in 2024. You know what I mean? Like it
Yes.
was more wild that I was living that. Like
Yes.
that was way more wild.
I
No one
hear
thought
you.
anything was wrong when I was living that way. Oh, like
Yes. I hear
yeah,
you
it was a
through
lot more
and
rough
through.
before. Like I said,
Mm,
if I had to go through being admitted to a psych ward, my family freaking out, and all that to be better, oh,
mm,
I'd do it again tomorrow.
yeah.
Like, because that old life really sucked.
Yeah.
Like, it really sucked. I'll take this new timeline any day.
I love it. Olivia, you are amazing. Thank you so, so, so much.
Thank you.